All right, episode 2 of the Battle of Ohio podcast, and week five's in the books. The Browns are 4-1 now. They had a hard fought win over the Colts. Looked really good against them. The final score was actually a little bit farther away from how close of a game it really was, but it was really impressive game. And the Bengals, yikes!
And it still suck.
And the Steelers still suck.
That's great. That's great.
Welcome to the Battle of Ohio podcast, where we follow the revival of the historic rivalry between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns.
So, what beer are you drinking today, Thomas?
Today I am drinking a Bud Light Orange. Always drinking the Bud Light, man. Bud Light brings back great memories when the Browns broke that 0-16 streak or however many games they lost in a row. They broke open a Bud Light cooler, and that was a great day for Cleveland, and I would never forget that. So thank you, Bud Light, and thank you for making orange flavored Bud Light, because go Browns.
I don't know about that. The only thing Bud Light really reminds me of is college.
Yeah,
I have another Bud Light. I might have to check that out. But I got this thing. It's called Hobgoblin. It's like it's an English ruby beer. And it's actually pretty tasty, but it's definitely not Bud Light.
Oh, Hobgoblin's really good.
Yeah, you've had it?
Yeah, of course I have.
Yeah, I picked it up. I've never seen it before. I picked it up at Jungle Gyms, and it said English ruby beer, and I'm like, I've never had that before.
I've had a lot of beers. I know a lot about beers. I should probably be more diverse in my beer selection. But today we're going with Bud Light. Next podcast, I bring in a more lesser known beer.
You know what? Being from Cleveland and me being from Cincinnati, I think we're legally required to know about beers.
We should. I mean, just should. Like,
it was like two of the biggest craft beer cities in the country.
You got Rhinegeist, Market Garden. Never mind. We're not gonna go into that right now.
No, we don't need to go into all that. But
that's a whole nother podcast in itself.
Well, you know what? Maybe one day we'll start a beer podcast.
Or just do a special episode.
Or something like that, yeah. So let's go ahead and get into these games. Like I said in the intro, the much more fun one to talk about, I think, is the Browns game. 32-23 win over the Indianapolis Colts.
Yep.
And I don't know, my biggest takeaways from that game were of the quarterbacks, personally. Man, Baker, he wasn't perfect, right? I mean, he had some pretty bad interceptions that, kind of let the Colts back into the game. One in the third quarter and one in the fourth quarter, and they were momentum killers. But he stepped it up and he made the throws that he had to make when it mattered. And I had basically the opposite perspective on Phillip Rivers. He looked like a near 40-year-old on a new team, but he didn't look like he was handling it as well as Tom Brady's handling it in Tampa Bay. So one thing that I noticed about those interceptions, I think my biggest impression of Baker Mayfield is he looked a lot like Brett Favre to me. Did he look like? Would you say that's a good comparison? Because I think he looked a lot like Brett Favre.
I think
he had that real
comparison
mentality.
Yeah, I think the comparison that Baker Mayfield and Brett Favre is probably the most accurate comparison. I think their careers are mirroring each other so similarly, especially when you look at the stats.
I think about Baker's interceptions, though. That's actually something about Favre that was worrisome from time to time. But those were really those could have been killer interceptions. Like, I mean, he did a really good job of getting it together when it mattered ultimately at the end of the game, but he almost destroyed the Browns' chances of winning with those interceptions, because both of those interceptions, the Browns defense held the Colts to field goals. And if the if the Colts had gotten touchdowns on those drives, then the
It would have been a
Colts are
completely different game.
winning. Well, no, they don't. Well, I mean, it would be an extra 8 points, I think. So that wouldn't
Yeah.
totally negate everything that happened, but it would mean that the Colts would end up with they would have the lead until Cody Parkey kicks that field goal with 21 seconds left, and it potentially changes the whole landscape of the game. So, I mean, I really believe in Baker, but I think that's something that he could really stand to clean up, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. Baker said after the game that this was his worst game of the year. That's saying a lot, considering the fact that they lost to the Ravens pretty badly. But out of the 4 games they won, I have to agree this is the worst game that Baker played, because this is the only game where he turned over the ball as much. He only threw 2 picks. So I mean, like, he didn't play a tremendously bad game. In fact, that first half, Baker came out slinging. It was that fourth quarter. And the Colts do have the best defense in the league. We got to give them credit for that. They have some injuries, but they still have that core defense coordinator. They still have plenty of great defensive playmakers on that side of the ball. So they still have ballers on that side of the field. And the Browns still put up 30 points against them. So we got to give credit to the Browns on that hand. But on the other hand, Baker Mayfield did throw 2 interceptions. Like you said, he looked very pedestrian in the fourth quarter and third quarter and second half. So I'm not sure if maybe the Browns got more conservative in the second half, and that's something that I've seen. That's been a pattern with the Browns for the last couple of weeks, is that they get conservative with the league. And I'm not sure if Kevin Stefanski is trying to ease this team into his system, but they have to be more aggressive in the third or fourth quarter to really close out this game. Running's fun and all, but we need big passes. And I know Baker can have the capability of making these big passes. He did take that shot where he hurt his ribs. Mm-hmm. And when he took that shot when he hurt his ribs, he did seem a little different in the game since. But he still finished the game out. He still did what he had to do to end the game. My overall impression from the game, what the Browns did, they had control of that game pretty much from start to finish, though. Like, they come out firing. Let's see, what was that? You come out the first quarter they came out losing. When they put up 17 points in the second quarter, they love having those 17-point quarters. So they put up 17 points in the second quarter, and then they put up 7 in the third and 5 in the fourth, thanks to a safety. So if it wasn't for our defense making those plays and really holding the Colts, then the Colts could have came back in that game easily. So I gotta agree with you on the Baker thing. The other thing the person I really want to give a shout out in that Browns game, though, is we gotta give a shout out to Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett might be Defensive Player of the Year. He is phenomenal right now. When I was at the Cowboys game, I noticed that they were triple teaming Myles Garrett. It's no different with the Colts. The Colts were doing everything they could to stop Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett forced Phillip Rivers to throw that ball out of the end zone, which caused a safety. Really great defense on him. Really passionate playing. Really motivated this season. I'm very excited about what I'm seeing from Myles Garrett. He's the heart and soul of that Browns defense, especially when they have a depleted secondary.
Yeah, that's what would you say, though? Just from the perspective of a Browns fan, would you say is the best thing from that game? What was your like? Did you feel, oh man, this is a thing that we really got? Man, we got him by the heels here.
Yeah, I gotta say the coaching, man. I got it.
Yeah.
For once, we have a competent coach. The attitude of this team. You talk about every single time you get a new coach. When you're in a city with a new coach, the cliche that you hear is a new attitude, a new culture, right? You hear that so many times, but you never really see it. This time you're seeing it with the Browns. And I see what they mean by new attitude, new culture. Multiple times this year, the Browns have had many chances to lay down and die. I don't know how many times I watched the game and I was like, oh, here comes the Browns, about to Browns up the game. The first win we played against your Bengals. Joey Barrow kept on completing passes after pass. And I'm like, oh man, here comes the Bengals. The Browns are about to blow this league. They held on to the league. The game against the Washington football team, they actually fell behind in, I believe, third quarter, and they put up 17 points in the fourth quarter, unanswered points, to come back and take that lead. And that to me showed that this team had attitude. This team would not lay down and die, and they're not just same old Browns. Because too many times the Browns would lose a league and they would just lay down and die. Well, this team right here, they lost the league and they came back and took the league back and they won convincingly. Same thing with the Cowboys. The Cowboys started to come back. They started making all these great passes. And you thought, oh, man, here comes the Cowboys. They're about to come back in this game. They're going to win this game. Insert Odell Beckham for a 55-yard run for a touchdown. And then you see Denzel Ward making a play at the end of the game to intercept Dak Prescott to end the game. And then this week, when Baker Mayfield threw those interceptions, like you said, that almost killed us, or when I can't remember who was the player for the Colts, but he returned a 100-yard touchdown from a kick return. You thought, man, there go all momentum. The Colts are about to come back in this game. And every single time the Colts punched the Browns came back and they punched them harder. And that's very important when you talk about culture change. That's what they mean by culture change. They mean that this team, no matter what, they're not going to let up and they're always going to give you all they got. And they're focused on winning. So that's what I'm noticing from this team.
That's fair. I saw a certain fight in the Browns that just really hasn't been present in a lot of previous years. You've had you had just these awful coaching hires, and we talked about how great I think Kevin Stefanski is last week, and exactly why that is. But I think this week really showed it, and it showed a lot of the stuff that the Bengals still really need to develop, and that is closing games. Now, the game this week, we got absolutely obliterated by the Ravens. We should have been shut out. But at the very end, Zach Taylor calls for a field goal at the very end, just because he wanted to avoid a shutout. That's literally the only reason we kicked the field goal at the end, was because we're down 27-0, and it would look a little bit better if it was 27-3 at least, I guess.
Yeah, nobody want to be shut out, man.
Exactly, that's the only reason we did that. But the problem this team has is putting a full game together on all aspects of the team. Because, in the last episode, I told you how the Bengals could beat the Ravens. I also said I didn't think the Bengals would beat the Ravens. So I'm, let's not whatever on that. I didn't come out and try to say something crazy or anything, but I did say that there was a formula to beating the Ravens, and we saw that with the Bengals this week. What I said was the Bengals need to find a way to hold Lamar Jackson down as a passer. You got to understand, they're going to run the ball. They're probably going to do a pretty good job of running the ball from time to time. And actually, the Bengals did a pretty good job of containing him. But I think, the first quarter was just a terrible, terrible thing. It was something else. I don't think I've seen a completely awful altogether team performance by the Bengals than I did in the first quarter of that Ravens game. But after the first quarter, the defense came to life. I think Lamar ended the day with 19 completions on 37 pass attempts, 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, and interception. But if you're only counting the production from, I think, the 5 seconds after the second quarter began and on, then his numbers dropped to 10 completions for 23 yards, or for 23 pass attempts. He only completed 10 of them. 92 yards, an interception, and a sack for 9 yards. That's all Lamar Jackson did in the air. And they only scored, I believe, 3 points in the final 3 quarters of the game on offense. They had that fumble recovery that, Joe Burrow got hit from behind and they recovered a fumble and they got a touchdown that way. But the defense only gave up 3 points. And it's such a shame that this offensive line played so poorly. Actually, the per Pro Football Focus, the all three of the Bengals' worst graded players were offensive linemen. It was Fred Johnson, Alex Redmond, Michael Jordan, and they were all just terrible out there. And here's the thing: Joe Burrow looked like a rookie this week. He was holding on to the ball too long. He was making some bad decisions and trying to get rid of the ball. Like, a lot of people are focused on AJ Green not really looking like he cared on that, really awful looking interception that Joe Burrow threw. But at the same time, that was still a really bad, decision by Joe Burrow. You can't just try to throw it just randomly like that. I mean, if you're going to throw it to where nobody can get it, dead play, try to move on to the next one. But he didn't.
Yeah.
He looked like a rookie. And, I think it was the offensive line looked terrible. The running game couldn't get a whole lot going, and Joe Burrow looked like a rookie. The thing is, like I said, the Bengals did what they needed to do on defense. They made Lamar make mistakes in the passing game, and they managed the running game to a point that it didn't just completely destroy them. But the thing that I also said was, in addition to those things on defense, you have to capitalize on offense, and they just did not do that, and they've struggled a lot with doing that this year. When the opportunities are there, they don't really often get it done on offense, and some of that's Joe Burrow being a rookie, but a lot of it is the fact that he has no protection out there.
Oh yeah, no, it's kind of frustrating because Lamar Jackson only had 187 total yards. 183 total yards. He had 2 rushing attempts for 3 yards, and he had 180 yards passing. He actually had less passing yards than Joe Burrow, but he has more touchdowns and 1 interception. He had 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. So Lamar Jackson is probably going to have. I mean, it wasn't a bad performance, but that's the closest you're ever going to get to containing Lamar Jackson as you will.
Actually,
and Lamar Jackson
on that note, it was actually a remarkably bad performance for Lamar Jackson by his standards.
By his standards.
There's this podcast host, this Bengals podcast host I follow on Twitter. His name is Jake Lisco. He does the the Locked On podcast with James Rapine, who actually covered your Browns last year, I think.
Yep, sure did. 92 to fan. But, he's a good dude.
Yeah. I really like his work, but the host of that show, Jake Lisco, posted on Twitter. He mentioned that Pro Football Focus graded that as Lamar's worst graded game across the board since week 3 of last year against the Chiefs.
That just speaks to how good the Ravens defense is, unless they're playing the Chiefs, who Patrick Mahomes. But
they haven't looked that great They haven't looked that great this year. I think that actually is partly because their offensive line or their defensive line was supposed to be a lot better than it's really played this year because they got Calais Campbell. They've had some they've got some talent on that defensive line, but it really hasn't. It hasn't shown up the way it's supposed to show up, and it showed up against the Bengals. But you're going up against the Bengals' offensive line.
Yeah, man. Man. All right. Well, I want to dissect this.
Let the Eagles get 8 sacks on us. Come on.
Carson Wentz is still trash. By the way, Carson Wentz is still trash.
Carson Wentz almost lost that game for them.
I know, but before we go in on Carson Wentz, because that's coming, because I'm going to go in on you, Carson Wentz. Your day's coming. Before I go in on that goober, Lamar Jackson, or the Bengals, for me, it felt like the Bengals blew an opportunity. And I was actually mad watching that game for y'all, because I wanted the Bengals to win that game. I badly wanted the Bengals to win that game. I thought Joe Burrow was going to show up against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, and he's going to plant his status in the AFC North. I thought this was going to be the week that he did it. I was sadly mistaken. But, excuse me, like you said, he did look like a rookie out there. And, he
actually, out of the, what was it? I forget how many sacks he took in that game,
He
but
took a lot of sacks that game.
yeah, he had a lot of pressure. He was hit
He got
15
beat.
times. But he was Pro
7
Football
sacks for
Focus
48
actually
yards.
credited him with 4 pressures and 3 sacks that were his fault alone. So I mean, we can talk about this, that, and the other, and the offensive line is bad, and I'm not trying to make excuses for them. Something's got to get fixed there. Alex Redmond clearly isn't the answer at right guard.
Yeah.
But
No.
Joe Burrow
No.
can play better. Like let's be
You know,
honest
he
about that one.
I'm not somebody who subscribed to the idea that you could ruin a quarterback if he gets sacked too much. But you know what? Because I think Joe Burrow, he's tough. I think Joe Burrow is mentally tough. I think that these sacks happen and he's just gonna get back and fight back. But you could tell that this offensive line is getting to his head. He's not fighting for extra yards. He's just going down now because he's like, oh man, I felt that hit.
Mm-hmm.
And he's kind of trying to protect himself a little more. And so that's kind of taken away from his elusiveness because Joe Burrow is more athletic than people realize. So when he played against a team like the Ravens, and he knew that it was going to give them lots of pressure, he kind of gave up early. And so that's why I got so frustrated watching it because I'm like, oh, come on, Joe Burrow, come on.
You're better
than
this,
he looked like a rookie. Like, when you're a rookie quarterback, sometimes they're still trying to figure out how to play the game in the NFL.
I'm going to let you in on a little secret here. I know he hasn't looked like it through most of this year so far, but Joe Burrow is a rookie. He's
definitely a rookie.
He is. He doesn't.
We've seen it yesterday.
He didn't look like it. He acts like he has more experience than he does, but he is a rookie. And I think we were all. If anybody expected him to come out here and look like the same exact level of dominance that he was when he was at LSU, then you got to be crazy, honestly, because it's a different level. It took Joe Burrow a little while to adjust to being a great quarterback in college. I don't know how long it's going to take him to adjust to being a consistently great quarterback in the NFL, but it's not going to be instant.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's ever been instant for anybody.
Well, I mean, thinking of it this way, Baker Mayfield broke Peyton Manning's record, and look how long that took. But I just wanted to throw a shout out to Baker Mayfield real quick. I'm sorry.
But Baker also had his sophomore slump too.
Yeah, he did.
But anyway, I think he's putting it back together though.
Yeah, I do too. I think, one thing, when I was watching that game with the Bengals and the Ravens, I kept on thinking to myself, I'm like, oh, man, they're going to come back. They're going to come back. Wait, hold on.
Agree with that right there. It's the one thing I love about watching, Joe Burrow with the Bengals is it doesn't matter how bad they're playing and how bad they're looking. I think it was it was 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter before I genuinely believed that, we weren't going to win this game. But before I was really like, okay, this is definitely going to be a loss because back in the Andy Dalton days, if we get down with if we're down at the end of the half, I'm not sure I believe that he's going to lead us to a comeback. But with Joe Burrow, it's I think it's possible. Even if we're down, 17-0, we're down 24-0, we're down whatever to nothing. I believe he's got it in him.
Yeah.
Now, near the end of the game, it's this is all obviously not working. It's not going to happen. But, I saw the pathway. I thought that defense and performance and the fact that Joe Burrow is as amazing as he is, I thought, hey, this has all the makings of, and we talked about this before the podcast, but I said this, I thought this has all the makings of one of those legendary comeback stories. And
I kept on
because there was no offensive firepower.
Yeah, I kept on. It was the third quarter, I believe. I was watching it, and I'm like, I believe you guys had a turnover, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember what it was, but I'm pretty sure you guys had a turnover or a stop.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, here go the momentum changer. Here it comes. Everybody, the Bengals are going to come back. Joe Burrow is going to get some momentum. You're only down 3 scores, 2 touchdowns and a field goal. So I thought when I got the turnover, I thought Joe Burrow was going to get momentum, catch some fire, and then drive the ball down the field and then score a touchdown. Nope, he gets sacked. That's what happened, and it goes 3 and out. And all that momentum's gone, and then the Ravens come back. They score again. They eventually score twice. And it was just a frustrating game. It seemed like a young team we were watching. And, I said last week that that there's a path for the Bengals to possibly go 7-9 or 8-8, or possibly, make some noise for that seventh playoff seed. I think it's gonna be a lot harder than said, because the AFC is a lot better. It's turned out to be a lot better than I first originally thought it would be. And also, it's going to take time for this team to grow and gel, because this team is so young. They're still trying to rally behind this young quarterback. And that offensive line is a problem, man. That offensive line is a huge problem.
That offensive line is a massive problem. And I think getting Xavier Su'a-Filo back at right guard is going to help. And I could see, honestly, I still genuinely believe the Bengals are going to go through a late season resurgence, because the schedule just gets, really easy. You've got a primetime game with the Steelers. And like I said, if our offensive line can play better, they're going to have to play better to beat the Steelers. But because that Steelers defensive line is just so frustratingly good. I'm reminded of the Jim Mora rant about playoffs. Like, that might not be a thing at this point. First of all, you're right. The AFC is just they're the top like 8 or 9 teams are all just too good to let the Bengals slip back into a 7th position, unless we get some big upsets. And
you never know. It's
like
football.
we saw against the Ravens. That was one opportunity for a big upset, and it didn't happen.
It's football. The thing is, this is going to be a weird season. We're going to see some weird games. I mean, like, we just seen Oakland beat the Chiefs. Like,
you know what? I called that one.
That was a very interesting game. That was a fun game to watch, by the way.
Oh yeah.
But
Vegas is good, man. A lot of people and Derek Carr. Yeah. Derek Carr is better than people give him credit for.
He is. He's a lot better. But it's these young quarterbacks. So, you got Joe Burrow, it's only his 5th game in the NFL. He had no preseason.
Mm-hmm.
He had no preseason at all. Usually the preseason is 4 games of practice for a rookie quarterback. So he didn't have that. So, it takes time. And usually with these rookie quarterbacks, they get better as the season goes on. If you look at the pattern of every single rookie quarterback we've seen from the last 3 years, right? You remember Baker Mayfield's second half was better than his first half. Lamar Jackson's second half was better than his first half. Kyler Murray's second half is better than his first half. So these young quarterbacks, they go through a learning process. They start off hot. The league adjusts to them, and they adjust to the league. So we're gonna have to see how the league's starting to adjust to Joe Burrow pretty quickly. So we're gonna see how Joe Burrow adjusts to the league. And plus, you guys didn't have many favors. Y'all had some hard opponents at the beginning of the year. So let's see how you guys bounce back. I think who do the Bengals got next week?
Who do they? They got the Colts coming up, actually.
Oh, okay. So use that.
But I'll say, one thing that's really going to hurt our momentum going forward. Were you paying too much attention to the Bengals in the offseason? Because they made a lot of noise for finally making a play or a push in free agency. Like, we're going to go out, we're going to spend money, and we're actually going to try to bring in some free agents. And it's just like every single one keeps getting hurt. DJ Reader just went on IR, man. We got I think Von Bell and Josh Bynes are the only ones who are left who are not injured. And those weren't even the big pickups. So, I mean, it's I don't know. They played fine without DJ Reader, though. And actually, he went out early in the game. So really, they weirdly enough, they played better after he went out. So I don't know. Maybe Geno just kind of got going, and I don't know what's going to go on there. Hopefully, Mike Daniels can come back pretty soon, and we can have a good defensive tackle tandem there with those two. Yeah, like I said, these free agents just. I'm terrified that Mike Brown is going to go back to being, cheap and penny pinching when it comes to free agency, because this happens. This is a pattern with him. He makes, occasionally he'll make a splash in free agency, and then that free agent gets hurt, and then he won't go into free agency for another 5-6 years because of that one bad experience he had.
Yeah. You know, I don't know. Just I think we. I think it's too early for us to to look that far ahead because I still think like I said, I gotta agree with you. I still think the Bengals going to make a surge at the end of the season. I think it's going to be fun. I remember that
With the
2018
schedule, I
season.
agree.
I remember that 2018 season with the Browns, where the Browns started off slow, and they fired Hugh Jackson, and they ran off like 4 out of 5 or something crazy like that. Excuse me.
Yeah,
So
don't put that evil on me though. I'm not. A lot of Bengals fans are talking about like, oh, this coaching staff is terrible and we should fire Zach Taylor. And I'm
no,
like,
I don't think I
okay,
can fire
like,
Zach.
dude, like the Browns are good now, but I don't want to be like firing your head coach all the damn time because shit isn't working out
Yeah.
immediately is how you become the Browns of the 2000s. I don't want
Exactly.
that. Or the
Exactly.
2010s.
I think they
do
fired a couple
not
of coaches.
want that. Zach Taylor is like has a lot of positives and yeah, there's some negatives, and the particular one is the nepotism that's like with him and Jim Turner being like family buddies and stuff like that, and he keeps defending him no matter what he does and won't hold the guy accountable. And I don't know if it's just because they're family friends or what, and that's getting on my nerves. But man, this guy, he makes adjustments so much better than
Yeah.
I've ever seen a Bengals coach make adjustments before.
Yeah.
And the game plans are a little sketchy, but I don't know. I think this guy has a vision for the Bengals, and I'd be gutted if we didn't get to see what that vision was.
It'll be a horrible mistake to fire Zach Taylor. Zach Taylor is not a bad.
Well, they're not going to, but a lot of Bengals fans.
Right,
Thank
cool.
God, by the way, the Bengals fans do not run the Bengals because that would be terrible. Our fan base, and I'm sure every fan base is like that, but from my perspective, I see our fan base as just one of the most obnoxiously reactionary fan bases. Again, it's probably because I'm in it and I'm so
you should come up to Cleveland.
No, I believe you. I believe you. I'm sure Cowboys fans are like that. I'm sure Jaguars fans are like that. I'm sure Broncos fans are like that.
Cowboys fans are weird because they're so diverse.
Yeah, that's true. I know Steelers fans are like that. And then, but the thing about Steelers fans is they turn around and either like, oh, I was never reactionary. I was always on board with it from the beginning. Once they start doing good, then the second they start doing bad, they get all like victim-y and so one thing that I definitely wanted to at least pay homage to was and I know it has really technically has nothing to do with the Bengals and Browns, but it was a big thing that I know I hate to see, and I know you've got a lot to say about it. Is Dak Prescott's gruesome injury. Man, you just hate to see that, and in the middle of him having all these contract problems with the Cowboys. I just man, that just sucks to see.
Oh no, that injury. Like you said, I'm very frustrated, and the person I'm frustrated with the most is Jerry Jones. And I was just in Dallas a week ago, so I was in that city, and I've seen the passion that city have for that team, and I've seen the passion that city have for Dak Prescott. And Dak Prescott, he did argue for a new contract. Yeah, he battled for a new contract, correct? But he didn't hold out like Ezekiel Elliott did. He always kept his mouth closed when it came to social issues. He always kept his mind on football. He gave his all to that city. He's been giving his all to that city. And right now, Jerry Jones, from withholding him from a new contract, shows disrespect to him, shows disrespect to the city, and disrespect for that fan base. And Jerry Jones is running that team in the ground. And Dak Prescott was playing his life out for that team, for them not to have a defense, for them not to have consistency, for them to have terrible coaching year after year. And that organization would never be good until Jerry Jones get his head out his ass and have real football people run that organization. And I'm so frustrated because Dak Prescott is such a good player. He's such a good person. I know injuries happen, but he should have been paid. He's never going to get the money that he deserved because of Jerry Jones. So I am livid about the whole thing.
I like I said, I hate seeing players get thrown under the bus like that. And I know there's a lot of Bengals fans out there that are Happy to see Andy Dalton getting a chance at starting again in the NFL and
Yeah.
doing pretty well from what I understand from that game.
Oh, yeah.
But under these kind of circumstances, you can just you can never really be completely happy, just because it's like injuries happen in the NFL, but this is a truly devastating injury that I don't know if it's like people have been comparing it to what happened to Alex Smith 2 years ago, but Alex Smith is at the end of his career. Alex Smith already made all
Yeah.
his money. Dak
Yeah.
Prescott, just got off his rookie contract, and he's kind of like, he's on a franchise tag, right? And so, I mean, he made way more money than you and me are ever going to see in our lives on that franchise tag. But considering the fact that, football players only have a short window of time to make their money in their career because of how brutal playing football is, it's unfortunate. And for a guy who gives everything he has to his craft like Dak Prescott does, it sucks to see him just, he's not going to get it now. I think Stephen Jones, I think, said Cowboys general manager, or whatever he is. I actually don't know how their power structure works, but he said, "Oh, don't worry, Dak is still our future." And that might be true if you guys can come up with a deal, but all you're gonna do is lowball him, and you're gonna piss Dak off. And and Dak might still get his money somewhere else, but he's gonna have to work twice as hard to get the amount of money that he could have gotten if y'all had just paid him what he was worth.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I don't think well, we know how this goes in the NFL. What's gonna happen is Andy Dalton's gonna get a second chance. He's gonna turn some heads. That division's so weak. Is it really outside the question that Andy Dalton leads that team to the playoffs?
It is not outside of the question. And I'm actually not entirely sure who to root for here. Because as a Bengals fan and as, one of the biggest Dalton advocates during his tenure in Cincinnati, I really want to see him succeed.
Yeah.
I would like to see the Bengals also succeed and not just see Andy Dalton succeed. But if Andy Dalton succeeds, I'll be happy to see that. But at the same time, I'm so inspired by Alex Smith's, comeback story that I'm not sure if I should root for Andy Dalton, taking the Cowboys to the playoffs and, Andy Dalton,
or he should root for
Dalton, or if I should root for Alex Smith taking the Washington football team to the playoffs on the heels of probably the most incredible comeback story we've ever heard. He almost died.
Yeah. I know. It's crazy. Just crazy that he's back on that football field.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Man, the Cowboys ironically they play each other next week. So there's that.
That's gonna be an interesting quarterback duel.
That's gonna be a very interesting.
I actually wanted to talk a little bit about AJ Green. Because we were talking about Dak Prescott and his contract situation, and it's a little bit different with AJ Green because AJ Green already got his payday. He was looking for another one, and he deserves it. And this whole, the NFL is a business, right? But it's you also need to take care of the people who work hard for you. And I feel like the last couple years, it's been hard to place because AJ just hasn't been out on the field. AJ just hasn't been, nobody's even been paying attention to him because he hasn't played since halfway through 2018. Now he's out there and he's playing really poorly. And it sucks for him. But there was this video going around Twitter, and now it's finally made its rounds out into the media outlets and stuff where during the game, I believe somewhere in the second quarter, AJ Green is sitting on the bench while the offense is out there, and he's talking to one of the coaches. I'm not sure which one. And it looks like there's no audio, but if you're trying to read his lips, it looks like what he says: if you're not going to use me, then just trade me. And now here's the thing: AJ Green is not that type of person. That would be pretty out of character for him to say or do something like that. Also, I don't think he's going to demand a trade in the middle of a game, but he also he could be venting some frustrations. He also could be talking about a different situation. That's basically the exact sentiment that Andy Dalton expressed over the offseason when it was clear that we were moving on from him. And, you know, he was trying to get himself traded. He was trying to get himself going to various different places. So I'm not sure exactly what AJ Green was really saying there, and I really don't want to speculate on it too much. For now, I'm just gonna say, you know, let's see what happens. And if he comes out and says something, then he comes out and says something. But until then, I'm not gonna make any assumptions. I will say one thing though, and I want to speak to Bengals fans here for a second.
Yeah.
AJ Green is not going to get traded, guys. I'm sorry, but the man has no trade value left. Maybe like the last time he had trade value was like maybe the end of 2017 when he was you know, coming close to nearly a 1,000 yard season. He's not he doesn't look good anymore. Whether or not he is good anymore, he doesn't look good anymore. He hasn't played in a long time. I mean, do y'all remember what we got for Chad Johnson when we traded him in 2011? We got a 6th and a 7th rounder for him. And this man was coming off of 7 1,000 yard seasons the past 9 years. And in the prior year, 2010, he almost had another 1,000. He had like 831 yards and only started 12 of those games. So, you know, Chad Johnson still looked like a really good, viable receiver. And I know it didn't really work out for him outside of Cincinnati, but, you know, Chad Johnson had a lot of potential. And we only got a 6th and a 7th rounder for him. This isn't Carson Palmer, you know, coming off a 16-game season, throwing for nearly 4,000 yards, and then us, you know, basically screwing the Raiders out of 2 first-round draft picks in a second because, you know, Hugh Jackson went over there and then, you know, wanted to get his boy Carson Palmer in Oakland. Nobody is going to – AJ Green will probably find a team in free agency. Somebody's going to take a chance on that, but nobody is going to trade for him. I hate to say it, but we're probably going to have to get used to the idea that he's just not going to re-sign in the offseason and we're going to lose him for nothing. That's just what's going to happen. I think our best case scenario right now is just keep him on the team, keep trying to find ways to, you know, make him work in the system, keep trying to find ways to make him look good. And then that way, when he leaves in free agency, at least we get a good compensatory pick for that. You know, you're not going to trade him. Nobody's going to pay for him. They might pay him money, but they're not going to pay us picks.
No. It's kind of frustrating because, you know, AJ Green, you know, he's just using this season as like a mulligan season. You know, he's like trying to just get his like water legs back pretty much, or NFL legs.
He's had 2 mulligan seasons in a fucking row. When do they end?
Well, you leave the Bengals. Why don't you leave the Bengals and just have ball out?
What?
Why don't you leave the Bengals and just ball out? Like, that's gonna be worse. Why don't you go to the Cowboys or something?
Oh boy! You know what? I am looking forward to that Bengals Cowboys game near the end of the year now, because it's Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton's definitely starting now. Andy Dalton's probably going to be starting in Dallas for like the next 2 years.
Might as well pencil that on.
Maybe even longer than that. I don't know if things work out with Dak, but Dak's
it's gonna be a while before
it's take a while.
Oh yeah. Well, it said well, they're reporting 4 to 6 months, but I don't think
for a compound fracture.
Well, some people are reporting. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I am just some guy on a podcast.
Alex Smith just came back with the same injury.
I am just a guy on a podcast, so do not take my word for religion. But I'm pretty sure what I read.
If Dak Prescott comes back in 4 to 6 months from a compound ankle fracture, where he had his ankle bone was sticking out. I don't want to think about it. I've seen that injury once. Yeah,
I've seen that injury once.
You remember when that happened to Paul George?
Yes, it was so bad. Yes. The injury was so bad. They blurred it out on all the sports networks. So when they replayed it, they just blurred it out. They just blurred the whole thing out.
That was
that
was pretty bad.
Oh God! Imagine being there and seeing that. I remember I remember it was the Cavs game. The first game they played Kyrie Irving when he played for the Celtics. It was Gordon Hayward, and he broke his leg the first game. I remember watching that. I was like, oh my god! Like I was at the bar. I was in the bars in Athens when that happened. I just remember seeing that whole bar was just like, ugh, ugh. It's kind of the same thing with
Yeah.
Zach thing. Everybody's just like, ugh.
Yeah.
I'm with you, man. I don't think, man, just looking at Dak Prescott's face when it happened, man, it just
I hate to say
he
it.
just knew like that is just like the most ominous. Like these football players they try to stay so tough, and that's why I'm so mad about this injury because you see Dak Prescott's facial expression, and he gave so much to that city, man. He gave so much to that team just so he could end like that, man. I'm about to be real. This is gonna be my first hot take of this podcast.
Okay.
I don't think Dak Prescott is gonna play another snap as a Dallas Cowboy. I think Dak Prescott's gonna be starting quarterback, but it won't be as a Dallas Cowboy. I think what's gonna end up happening is I think Andy Dalton's gonna be the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys or somebody else, but it won't be Dak Prescott. I could see Dak Prescott
Well,
being a quarterback for another team.
if Dalton does well, then I think you might be right. Like I said, Stephen Jones said Dak's still their future, but
I don't believe him.
I think he's just trying to calm people down. Like I don't see any way for Dak to come back unless Dalton's just awful. Because like if Dalton's serviceable, then that's a quarterback who's going to play for a lot cheaper than Dak's going to play. And then there's going to be teams out there like the Atlanta Falcons who will pay him.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's going to the Falcons. I'm saying that's one of those teams that's got an aging quarterback who could use somebody like Dak Prescott to come in.
And the thing is that we talked about last week about how quarterbacks who run more, they're more liable to injury, and that maybe that's why Jerry Jones was hesitant to pay him. I talked about Lamar Jackson and how Lamar Jackson relies a lot on his legs. So we're going to see how long that he could last on that. If he keeps on taking those hits, because let's be honest, you don't want your quarterback to take these hits. Example A, what happened to Dak Prescott? You don't want your quarterback to keep taking these hits because just one wrong hit, even if it's just on accident, it could be with the best intentions. Just one wrong hit and your quarterback can be gone. So you don't. This is why people are so hesitant when it comes to these running back who like to scramble too much. So Dak Prescott, he does like to scramble here and there. He did catch a touchdown that game, and he used athleticism a decent amount. But the reason why I'm not really worried about Dak Prescott long term is because Dak Prescott, the reason why he's been so good this season is because he's just been out passing people. His accuracy, his arm, his throws have just been great. And hopefully his ankle injury doesn't take away from his throwing ability.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Depending on the time of game, because he's had some bad collapses too.
Yeah, that's true. But he's still young. He's like 27 years old, barely.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So quarterback.
So let's right. Let's get back to the Bengals and Browns because that's really what this podcast is about. I want. I think what I really want to focus on here is a player who you think didn't get enough credit for how well they played during the game. And it's going to be easier for me because everybody thinks everybody on the Bengals sucks. But the Browns, tell me who you think played really well and isn't getting enough credit for how well they played.
I gotta go with Dearness Johnson. Dearness Johnson as you know, Nick Chubb is hurt. Kareem Hunt didn't run for 100 yards this week. But the Browns have this backup running back that they grabbed from the AAF who goes by the name of Dearness Johnson, and he is quite explosive. He had an explosive third down run for a first down, which is very impressive. And his stats really weren't great, but that one play helped put away the Colts. So I have to give credit to Dearness Johnson. He's been doing very solid this year. He's third with the Browns. He's third for the Browns in rushing right now. Kid got a bright future, and I cannot wait to see him get more touches in the future. So I'm very excited about that kid. And so that's what I'm going to give credit to. What about you?
Well, I think somebody on the Bengals who deserves a lot more credit, and it's got to be somebody on the defense, right? Because the defense
Yeah,
actually positively affected the game. And
yeah,
you know who it is. I mean, you've got guys who played great. Jesse Bates is blowing up, Bengals Twitter and probably Bengals whatever exists out there. In
huh?
how well he's been playing all season, how well he played against the Ravens. He looks like a breakout star for the Bengals, and it's unfortunate that the Bengals are so bad because he'd probably be being talked about in all the national media too if the Bengals were any good. But
Yeah,
one player who I really think in general doesn't get enough credit for how far he's come, and also I don't think is getting enough credit for how well he played against the Ravens is Darius Phillips.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, he is. He's the Bengals. I believe the slot corner right now.
Yeah, yeah.
He's functionally more of a he's functionally more of like a fourth, fifth, sixth string type cornerback. But just because of the injury to Trey Waynes, the injury to Mackenzie Alexander, both of our two big free agency pickups in the cornerback core, and then the departure of two of our other cornerbacks, Darquez Denard and Dre Kirkpatrick. Um, there's been a lot of shuffling around on this secondary, and because of that, Darius Phillips is getting his opportunities to start right now. And there's been some ups and downs. He hasn't been perfect, but this kid showed up for the Ravens game, and like I said, I think he got like 2 hits on Lamar. He's a cornerback. He blitzed Lamar, and I don't know how many pressures he got. I don't know how many like all those other stats, but I know he hit Lamar twice. And
Mhm.
in addition to that, he was out there. He had 2 pass deflections as well. He had a tackle. This kid was all over the field for the Bengals in a way that I really don't think he's getting enough credit for. And I think people need to take note and be grateful for the fact that we have a player as useful, I guess, as Darius Phillips. Like, is Darius Phillips going to
Yeah.
be a Pro Bowler? No. But he is a good plug and play cornerback who we would terribly miss if we didn't have him.
Yeah, players like that are important, especially when we talk about a young team like the Bengals, because moving forward,
Mm-hmm.
when you guys start filling in holes, you guys have less holes you got to worry about.
Yep.
So this helps with long term growth as a team.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd be very excited for a player like that.
So
As you
I
should.
hate them. I hate them. I hate them. I hate them. I know you hate them, and I know you have something to say about it. But the Steelers are still undefeated, so they're leading this
Here we go.
division.
All right,
And
here we go.
it's I think the Ravens. I think the Bengals kind of put down a blueprint of how to beat the Ravens this week. It's just they didn't actually follow the blueprint. Part of the blueprint is
Yeah,
actually existing on offense. But I think other teams are going to
execution.
look at this film and they're going to be like, okay, this is how you beat the Ravens. We just got to do the offensive part better than the Bengals did, and we got a chance here. So, but as far as the standing of the AFC North, I think I think right now it's clear. Right, it's hard to say that the Steelers aren't the top team because they are undefeated. But like we talked about in the last podcast, they hadn't played anybody leading up to this week, and even then they almost lost to the. If it hadn't been for Chase Claypool going off at the very end, they very well could have lost to the Eagles. The Bengals
Man,
tied the Eagles. The Bengals.
man, man, you can't rely on the Eagles for nothing, man. God
Yeah,
dang it. I
really
need to
can't.
man, God dang. First of all, Carson Wentz are trash. First of all,
Complete and
Carson
utter
Wentz is
trash.
nothing but trash. Like, God dang it, man. Trash day is Thursday, not Sunday. Man, all right, man. Look, Carson Wentz. I'm so
I
mad
think
about.
it's
I'm so
Wednesday
mad
here.
at that dude. You guys had the Steelers, man. You guys had the Steelers, right?
Yeah.
There was one point in the game where I believe they just had to kick a field goal, and they kicked the field. If they made the field goal, they were going to take the lead. And the dude missed the field goal, and I was so pissed watching that game. I wanted to strangle that kicker. Like whoever that kicker is, you are trash too. You are trash, just like your quarterback. Your quarterback's trash, and everybody. You know what? Look, I'm just pissed because Steelers should have lost that game.
That Eagles, that Carson Wentz interception at the end of the game, man.
Oh my God!
When does he get benched?
Oh,
when does Jalen Hurts come in?
I don't know. It's long over. Where are you, Jalen Hurts?
I mean,
why is he coming against the Browns?
They've been trying to do like this Saints type thing where they got Carson Wentz is the main guy, and then Jalen Hurts is coming in and playing like a Taysom Hill type role. But man, you can't afford to keep doing that if your Drew Brees is terrible. Carson Wentz ain't Drew Brees. And Drew Brees isn't even doing all that well this year. And Carson Wentz still ain't that good.
Well, if they start Jalen Hurts, hopefully it's after week 12 because that's after they play the Browns. So, yeah, there's that. But, look, all right, but, okay, on to the Steelers, though. Steelers. First of all, y'all, if you're a Steelers fan, you watch this, you guys have played literally nobody. Like, literally nobody.
Literally.
Y'all gotta buy.
Literally.
Who do y'all beat, man? Who do y'all beat? Y'all beat the Giants. Okay, whatever. Y'all beat the Broncos. Who the hell are the Broncos? Y'all beat the Texans, who fired the coach 2 weeks after.
And now the Texans are playing better, but the Texans hated their coach so much. I think that the players on the Texans tanked just to get Bill O'Brien out of there.
Just to get him fired. And then y'all play the crappy Philadelphia Eagles. So y'all have played literally nobody. The teams that y'all beat have a combined record of 2 wins, if I'm not mistaken? 2 wins? 2 wins. The Browns beat the Colts, who had 3 wins. We beat one team that had more wins than your entire schedule. No. So the Steelers have played nobody. They are a false 4-0, and I cannot wait till the Browns put a whooping on them. And you know what? I gotta say this. I gotta say this, Kyle. I've been waiting 2.5 days to do this freaking podcast to talk about these specific people. I'm calling out Steelers fans. Not all Steelers fans, but the Steelers fans that live in Ohio. If you're a Steelers fan, if you were born and raised in Ohio, you are one of the worst scumbags on this earth. Yes, I said it, and I don't care who. You are the worst. You are the worst fans in the universe. If you are a Steelers fan and you're from Ohio, you are one of the worst fans in the universe. Why, you might ask? Because there are 28 other teams, right? Teams out of Ohio, teams out of AFC North, 28 other teams. You decide to root for the freaking Steelers. Why? Because you did that to despite Ohio. You did that to despite the teams in Cleveland and in Cincinnati. So you're doing that to hate the teams in Cleveland. You're doing that to hate the fans. You're doing that to be a villain, and you think it's funny. It's not funny. It's not cute. You look like a douche. You look like an idiot. And if you root for those teams and you root for the Steelers, you are literally one of the worst people in this freaking universe. And I don't care who I make mad. My brother's Steelers fan. This one goes up to you, Ryan. And I don't care who you are. If you root for the Steelers and you're from Ohio, you're trash. Go Browns! And I hope Miles Garrett comes there and not freaking Ben Roethlisberger upside the head with a helmet. I don't know. I don't wish that on nobody. Yeah, yes, I do. Yeah, that's funny. That was funny.
Go Bengals. But other than that, I agree.
No, I mean, maybe okay, you're not trash room. Yeah, you are. Yeah,
they are.
Yeah. I mean, why, man? My brother-in-law, he's from Ohio, and he didn't want to root for the Bengals or the Browns, so he roots for the 49ers. Why root for the 49ers? Because he's from the Youngstown area. The Bartlows are from Youngstown. They bought the 49ers, so he roots for the 49ers. That's different. That's understandable. But to root for the Steelers, and you're from Cleveland, you look like a clown, bruh. You look like a clown. I don't care if you want to root for a winner. You look like a clown because you're turning your back on your city. Like that is just the worst, man.
You look
That is-
like a whore.
you're only rooting for the Steelers just to look cool. Like
Exactly.
that, you are like, come on, man. Like if you're in grade school, fine. But if you're a grown man who grew up in Ohio your entire life, if you grew up in like, I don't know, Beechwood, Ohio or Shaker Heights, Ohio, and you're a Steelers fan and you lived in Ohio your entire life, you have no connection to Pennsylvania, and you're like, I want to be a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and I'm 28 years old. You are a clown.
Steelers fans from Ohio are the same people who go to New York City and eat pizza with a fork.
Steelers fans from Ohio are the same people who go to Rome and try to live like it's Ohio. Well, actually, that's not that bad. That's not that bad. I'm not gonna rip on you in that. But Steelers fans from Ohio are the same people who go. Steelers fans from Ohio are the same people who go to Japan and eat with a fork.
Steelers fans are the people who go to Japan and get McDonald's.
Okay, I did that.
Well, now hold on. What did you go to Japan?
I did graduation present for my parents. Anyway, but I mean, like, yeah, I mean, the food in Japan, it's like, I mean, it's great culture and everything. But I had a stomach ache for a week because it's a different culture. It's a whole different country. The food's different, so it takes time to adjust to the food. Anyway, Steelers fans from Ohio are the same people who wear panties to bed.
And and you know what? The Steelers might be undefeated, but the Steelers still suck.
The Steelers still suck.
Yeah.
Go Browns. I can't wait. I cannot wait for this game on Sunday. I hope we put a look into them. I really do, man. I really do. I can go all day on this. Give me 2 more minutes on this. Give me 2 more minutes on this, y'all. Give me 2 more minutes, y'all. Y'all just sit with me and look. I grew up in Shaker Heights, Ohio. That's a suburb of Cleveland, right? There was a point in time where I would go to school with my Browns jersey on, and the Browns would lose, and I always supported my team because you know what? I support my hometown because that's loyalty. Steelers fans there were people who didn't like the Browns because they didn't win. Fine. Who cares? Who cares? But then there was the Steelers fans. Steelers fans were the people who went out their way to make me feel uncomfortable for being a Browns fan. Now, these Steelers fans were born and raised in Cleveland, but they like the Steelers. It is the biggest slap in the face to your city that you could do. It's the biggest slap in your face to your city you could ever do because people in Pittsburgh do not like Cleveland. They do not like Cincinnati, and they do not like Ohio. So you're supporting a city that does not like you. You're supporting something that doesn't like you. It's like being the brown-haired girl trying to fit in with the blondes. You ain't a blonde. You ain't no blonde. Stop trying to fit in with people who don't like you. Stop trying to do that, man. They don't like you. They don't care about the Cavaliers or the Indians. They don't care about your team. They don't care about your city. All they care about is Giant Eagle, PNC, and freaking Willie Stargell and the Pirates and all that bullshit. Go Browns.
I also don't care about the Cavaliers. But I'm from Cincinnati, so I'm allowed.
Yeah, I mean, it's just go Cavs. Congrats to LeBron, by the way.
Royals, I don't know. That team we had in like the 70s.
I got some good college basketball. Cincinnati. You got Xavier and the Bearcats.
Well, yeah, in college. I'm a Kentucky fan, so,
Oh, that's right. You are. You go Duke.
Fuck you. Dookie.
Go Blue Devils. I don't for Ohio State, so I guess whatever. I guess where you.
You know what? I got one thing to say about Duke. Daniel Jones.
Yeah, well, no. Yeah.
And you know what I got one thing to say about North Carolina? Mitchell Trubisky.
He's from Cleveland, right? From Mentor, Ohio.
Is Trubisky
I've seen him play in high school. Yeah, I've seen him play in high school. He's I'm pretty sure he played against my brother actually. He used to smoke us.
You know who's from Cincinnati? Roger Staubach. Y'all got Mitch
I
Trubisky.
no, I mean, well, we got a lot more. I mean, it's Ohio. We got plenty of players that came out of Ohio.
I'm going to call it Mitch Trubisky.
What about Ted Ginn? What about
Ted Ginn ain't any good.
Yeah, you're right. There's just players who came out of Cleveland. Well, mostly.
I went to high school with Preston Brown. He wasn't any good.
Yeah.
He was good in
I
Buffalo.
mean, actually, the best players in Ohio probably come from the Youngstown Warren area. Actually, if I'm being real, just Paul Warfield, freaking, all the players that came from Warren G. Hardin or Cardinal Mooney High School. Shout out to those schools. Shout out to that culture. Shout out to that culture. And then Cincinnati got a lot of high schools down there too that just produce football talent. What's that school down there in Cincinnati that's always ranked nationally?
St. X.
This school. Yeah, that's a great school. They produce football players. Shout out to St.
Luke Kuechly came from them, I think. Yeah, everybody, thank you for listening to the second episode of the Battle of Ohio podcast. I'm Kyle. That's Thomas. You can find me on various social medias, facebook.com/The Phelps, at Kyle Phelps92 on Twitter. Thomas is on YouTube at the Blowdown page, or just Blowdown page, right?
Blowdown page, yep.
Yep.
And
you can find me on T-Star94 on Twitter, right?
Twitter and Instagram. We make comedy videos. We made a Black Baker Mayfield video. We're gonna make another Black Baker Mayfield video. Roller coaster videos and all that other kind of fun stuff. So check me out on YouTube. Always making content. And we're gonna keep on making these videos. We're gonna try to put out as many podcasts as possible before the season's over.
Yep. Everybody, don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube.
Please like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe.
Yes, that would really help us out. Tell your friends about it. If you like it, tell your friends.
Tell your mama.
Specifically
tell
Bengals
your
and Browns fans. Because
tell the Steelers fans.
No Steelers. Do tell the Steelers fans. Let them listen. I want them to hear.
Call them out. Call them Steelers fans out.
And you know what? If you're a Steelers fan from Pittsburgh, I don't like you. But if you're a Steelers fan from Ohio, I cannot condone you. I don't get it. But if you're from Pittsburgh, then whatever. We're not going to like each other in the first place. But it's whatever.
If you're from Pittsburgh and you're a Steelers fan, we could be cool. But if you're a Steelers fan from Ohio, don't talk to me. Don't talk.
I had a roommate in college who was a Steelers fan from Pittsburgh. And I gave him shit constantly about it.
Well, yeah, and then what is that? But we'll get to that next podcast. Yeah. Thank you guys. I appreciate y'all. Thanks for I appreciate you guys watching, even if you are still as a Ravens fan. Yeah. Check us out. Check our clips. Make sure you hit that bell button so you get an update on any time we upload a video, please. And thanks for checking us out. Go Browns.
And go Bengals. Who dey?